This conference will now be recorded.
Today's topic is retinoblastoma. It is the most common primary intraocular malignancy in childhood, which arises from the primitive retinal cells. The incidence is 1 in 17,000 live births. It accounts for 3% of all the childhood cancers. There is no sexual or racial predisposition. Mean age of diagnosis, usually at the 4 months. Bilateral disease occurs in 40% of the cases. At the age of 12 months, unilateral disease occurs in 60% of the cases. The most common age of occurrence is 24 months. 90% of the cases occurs under the age of 3 years. Trilateral retinoblastoma includes bilateral retinoblastoma with ectopic intracranial retinoblastoma. It usually involves the pineal gland or the paracellular lesion. Bilateral retinoblastoma means bilateral retinoblastoma, that is retinoblastoma in both eyes with intracranial retinoblastoma, which mainly includes pineal gland or paracellular region. That is called trilateral retinoblastoma. Histology, there are 3 types of rosettis. One is flexor intestinal rosettis, second one is Homer-White rosettis, third one is pleuretes. The most common is flexor intestinal rosettis. The tumor is mainly composed of small basophilic cells with large hyperchromatic nuclei, and cytoplasm is scanty, minimal cytoplasm and large nucleus. Small cells with large nuclei and scanty cytoplasm. That is the main histology of retinoblastoma. Scanty cytoplasm, small cells, large hyperchromatic nuclei is the main feature of retinoblastom. Many retinoblastomas are undifferentiated, but differentiation is characterized by 3 types: flexor intestinal rosettis, Homer-White rosettis, and pleuretes. The first one is this is undifferentiated retinoblastoma. Histopathology is slide showing undifferentiated retinoblastoma. This is flexor intestinal rosettis. These are the small cells with hyperchromatic nuclei and scanty cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is very scanty. These are the flexor intestinal rosettis, arranged in the form of rosettis. Each one is a rosetti. This one is one rosetti, this one is one rosetti, each one is rosetti. This is the characteristic most common type of arrangement of cells in retinoblastoma, flexor intestinal rosettis. The third one is pleuretes. There are 3 types: differentiated arrangement, flexor intestinal, and pleuretes. These are the 3 histological variants of retinoblastoma, out of which flexor intestinal is the most common variety of retinoblastoma in histopathology. Growth patterns, they are endophytic, exophytic. Endophytic means it goes into the vitreous cavity. The tumor goes into the vitreous cavity. That is called endophytic retinoblastoma. Here you can see it is going into the vitreous cavity, and you can see the small blood vessels here. Very small blood vessels. The tumor is going into the vitreous cavity. This is the normal retina here, and it is going into the vitreous cavity. That is endophytic. Exophytic means it is going under the retina and separates the retina from the underlying choroid. That is called exophytic retinoblastoma. If the tumor arises from the retina and it grows into the vitreous cavity, it is called endophytic retinoblastoma. It goes under the retina and separates the retina from underlying choroid. It is called exophytic retinoblastoma. Endophytic, white to cream colored mass, breaks through the internal lymphatic membrane. No surface vessels, or you can see the small irregular tumor cells. You see small blood vessels here. These are the very small blood vessels. Sometimes it may be associated with vitreous seeding. This is the vitreous seeding. These small cells are the vitreous seeding. This is an endophytic type of retinoblastoma. Exophytic means the tumor arises from the retina and separates the underlying retina from the underlying choroid. Overlying retina from the underlying choroid, it is called yellowish white lesion in the subretinal space. This is the exophytic retinoblastoma. Overlying retinal vessels are increased in caliber and trapezius. You can see the vessels here. They are increased in caliber and trapezius. You can see they are very large here. Overlying vessels are very large here. Associated with subretinal fluid and RD that can obscure the tumor. It can be associated with subretinal fluid and retinal detachment that can obscure the tumor. That is the characteristic feature of exophytic retinoblastoma. Otherwise, endophytic means it grows into the vitreous cavity. Exophytic means it arises from the retina and separates the retina from the underlying choroid. That is called exophytic. The characteristic feature of exophytic is the increase in caliber and touch of the vessels. Here you can see the vessels are very large in exophytic retinoblastoma. There is no vessels on endophytic retinoblastoma. You can see very small vessels. That is the difference between endophytic and exophytic retinoblastoma. Diffuse infiltration is depicted as a flake of thickened retina. This is the diffuse infiltration. You can see there a flake of thickened retina. You can see flat infiltration of the retina without discrete mass. There can be some conjunctival chemosis, pseudohypopyon, vitreosis can be seen. Large tumors can be both endophytic and exophytic. Here you can see in a cross section of eye with retinoblastoma where the tumor is both endophytic and exophytic. Here this is the vitreous cavity. It has grown into the vitreous cavity, endophytic. It is outside the vitreous, separating the retina from the underlying choroid. This is the retina. This is the choroid. This part is exophytic. This part is endophytic. This is both endophytic and exophytic. Mixed endophytic into the vitreous and exophytic into the subretinal space. This part is into the vitreous cavity. This part is in the subretinal space between the retina and choroid. This is the retina, detached retina, and this is the choroid. This is the exophytic retinoblastoma in cross section. This is the endophytic. This is a combined endophytic and exophytic retinoblastoma in cross section. This is diffuse infiltration. You can see a thickened retina. There is no tumor. There is only thickening of the retina in the form of a flake. That is called diffuse infiltration. There are three types of retinoblastoma: grossly, histologically, undifferentiated, flexner ventrostiner, and comorbidic rosaceous and fluoretes. And grossly, it is differentiated into endophytic, exophytic, diffuse infiltration. Sometimes it can be both endophytic and exophytic. Endophytic means it goes into the vitreous cavity. Exophytic means, here you can see, it separates the retina from the underlying choroid, mimicking retinal detachment. Diffuse infiltration means you can create a thickened flake here. There is diffuse infiltration of the retina. There is no mass. Thickening of the retina due to infiltration of the retina by the tumor cells. That is called diffuse infiltration. This picture is combined both endophytic and exophytic retinoblastoma. This is a classical picture of optic nerve involvement. Superficial involvement of the optic nerve head only, grade 1. Grade 2, involvement up to or involving the lamina cribrosa. Lamina cribrosa means to the holes at which the fibers of the optic nerve come into the eyeball. That is called lamina cribrosa. Grade 2 is involvement up to lamina cribrosa. Grade 3 is involvement beyond the lamina, outside the eyeball, beyond the lamina cribrosa. Grade 4 is involvement up to the surgical margin. This is the involvement of the optic nerve. Grade 1 is superficial involvement of the optic nerve. Grade 2 is involvement up to the lamina cribrosa. Grade 3 is involvement beyond the lamina cribrosa. Grade 4 is involvement up to the surgical margin. Genetics, it usually occurs in the chromosome 13. There is a mutation in the chromosome 13. 14 band of chromosome 13. There is deletion of the one or both the alleles of the 14 band of the chromosome 13 leads to retinoblastoma. This 14 band is considered as a tumor suppressor gene or anti-RB gene or anti-oncogenic gene. This 14 band of chromosome 13 is called anti-oncogenic gene or anti-retinoblastoma gene or tumor suppressor gene. And one or both the alleles of this 14 band is deleted or it is inactivated, it leads to retinoblast. There are two types of inheritance: heritable or germline inheritance, non-heritable or somatic inheritance. Heritable inheritance, 10% have a family history, 95% have no germline mutation, 85% have bilateral multiple tumors, 15% are unilateral. Somatic means 60% unilateral, non-transmissible. It cannot be transmitted to the next generation. Arise at a somatic level in the single retinal cell. It mainly occurs due to deletion or suppression of the both the alleles of the 14 band in the chromosome 13. That is the main pathology involved in the retinoblastoma. This 14 band of chromosome 13, it contains anti-tumor or anti-cancer or anti-retinoblastoma gene. If there is deletion of one or both the alleles of this 14 band of chromosome 13, it leads to retinoblastoma. There are two types of inheritance. One is heritable or germline inheritance. Number two is non-heritable or somatic inheritance. The somatic inheritance, it cannot be transmitted to the next generation. Whereas heritable or germline inheritance, it leads to transmission to the mutation in this gene leads to transmission to the next generation. Clinical features, most common clinical feature is leukoporia. Leukoporia means whitish reflex in the pupillary area. That is the most common presentation of retinoblastoma. Whitish reflex in the pupillary area, it can present as a squint or nystagmus. Sometimes it can present as a squint, most commonly convergent squint, bilateral convergent squint. Sometimes it can present as nystagmus, sometimes it can present as hypopyon and hypema, resembling uveitis. It mimics uveitis, masquerading uveitis. That is also one of the presentations. Sometimes it presents as proptosis. These are the various types of presentation. But most common presentation is leukoporia or whitish reflex in the pupillary area. That is called cat's eye reflex. Squint usually convergent, at times divergent. Sometimes it can present as proptosis, megalocornea. These are the most common modes of presentation: leukoporia or whitish reflex in the pupillary area is called leukoporia. This is the most common presentation. 60% of the cases will present as leukoporia or whitish reflex in the pupillary area. 20% of the cases present as strabismus. 80% of the cases present as there are leukoporia or strabismus. Remaining cases present as secondary glaucoma. Why secondary glaucoma? The tumor itself can push on the iris lens diaphragm, causing secondary angle closure glaucoma. A tumor cells can invade the anterior chamber and block the trabecular meshes, causing secondary open angle glaucoma. These are the various presentations of secondary glaucoma in retinoblastoma. The entire tumor can press on the iris lens diaphragm, causing the iris lens diaphragm to move forward, causing secondary angle closure glaucoma. Or sometimes the necrotic tumor cells can diffuse forwards into the anterior chamber and block the trabecular muscles, causing secondary open angle glaucoma. There is the two types of presentations of secondary glaucoma. It can present an angle closure glaucoma or it can present as an open angle glaucoma. If the iris lens diaphragm is pushed forward from by the tumor, it presents an angle closure glaucoma. The necrotic tumor cells diffuse into the anterior chamber and block the trabecular muscle, that causes secondary open angle glaucoma. Ophthalmos, you know ophthalmos. Congenital glaucoma is the ophthalmos. Large cornea, large eye. Due to raise in intraocular pressure, there is, because the child sclera is very sensitive to raise in intraocular pressure, it thins out, it bulges. That is called ophthalmos or bullseye-like appearance. Pseudohypopyon, the necrotic cells diffuse and settle in the anterior chamber and appear as pseudohypopyon. Mydriasis and hypema and dysmorphic appearance. These are the various presentations. Leukoporia or whitish reflex in the pupillary area is the most common presentation. Strabismus is one of the presentations. Secondary glaucoma, I have told you, can present as an angle closed glaucoma or open angle glaucoma. Ophthalmus means bullseye-like appearance. Pseudohypopyon means the necrotic cells, they diffuse into the antechamber and settle at the bottom of the antechamber. That is why it is called pseudohypopyon. You can present as mydriasis, hyatema. The other various types of presentation, signs of retinoblastoma or various types of presentations of retinoblastoma. Here you can see. This is a leukoporia. Whitish reflex in the classical picture. Whitish reflex in the pupillary area. Unilateral leukoporia. Here you can see in both eyes. You can see the blood vessels also in the second eye, left eye. You can see in this area. Bilateral leukoporia. This is presenting with secondary glaucoma. Enlarged cornea. You can see the cornea here. It is small, clear. Here the cornea is large, eyeball is large. You can see the conjunctival congestion, corneal edema, cornea has become opaque. Here you can see pseudohypopyon. The necrotic cells have settled, diffused into the antechamber and settled at the bottom of the antechamber. This is called pseudohypopyon. Sometimes the child can present with arthal cellulitis, ulcer and arthal inflammation. This is one common presentation. The reason is not known why retinoblastoma present as arthal inflammation cellulitis is not known. The tumor is very large. It breaks up. Most commonly, the weakest area is at the junction of the limbus and the sclera, and it invades anteriorly. That is called arthal inflammation. There are various types of presentation. Leukoporia. This is bilateral leukoporia. It can present as secondary glaucoma and ophthalmus. It can present as pseudohypopyon. It can present as arthal inflammation. It can present as arthal inflammation. There are the various types of presentation of retinoblastoma. The most common presentation is leukoporia or whitish reflex in the pupillary area. Examination, usually you should do child vision does not cooperate, you should do under general anesthesia, general examination, tonometry, you should measure the corneal diameter. Examination with handheld slit lamp, you should do ophthalmoscopy and document the findings with color drawing or photography. These are the investigation. General examination under general anesthesia for intraocular pressure, corneal diameter. For fundus examination, ophthalmoscopy, you should do general examination. This is a B-scan picture where you can see the size of the tumor and you can see the calcification here. This is the calcification. This is an ultrasound B-scan picture showing the tumor inside the vitreous cavity here. You can see the calcification of the tumor here. Ultrasound B-scan is used for measuring the size of the tumor and detecting the calcification. Here you can see the calcification of the tumor. This is the ultrasound base scan. After general examination, you should do ultrasound base scan. CT scan demonstrates intraocular tumor with characteristic intratumor calcification. This is a bilateral retinoblastoma. Here, in both eyes, there is calcification. In left eye, there is more calcification. In right eye, there is no calcification. Minimal calcification is there, but in left eye, there is significant amount of calcification because these whitish flecks are calcified. Here also you can see intratumoral calcification. This is the calcification. So these are the investigations. General investigation, intraocular pressure measurement, corneal diameter pressure measurement, and examination for the fundus for ophthalmoscopy by ophthalmoscopy. Ultrasound B scan for measuring the size of the tumor and calcification, and CT scan. You can measure the tumor. You can see the tumor directly and see the intratumoral calcification. This is the both pictures of CT scan. This is the bilateral retinoblastoma. This is an unilateral retinoblastoma in right. These are the various types of imaging. And most important is MRI. Why you need MRI? To know the involvement of the optic nerve head or intracranial extension, you should do MRI. To know the optic nerve involvement, presence of an associated intracranial lesion, that is trilateral retinoblastoma. But MRI cannot detect the calcification. Here you can see that there is involvement of the optic nerve, thickening of the optic nerve behind the lamina fibrosa here. This arrow where you can see the thickening of the optic nerve behind the lamina fibrosa. That is for MRI. MRI is mainly for the to know the involvement of the optic nerve and intracranial extension. There are the investigations. General examination, ultrasound B scan, CT scan, and MRI scan are the X-ray of the orbits. There are the 5 investigations for suspected retinoblastoma. CT scan, MRI scan, ultrasound B scan, general examination for intraocular measurement, IOP pressure measurement, and funnel diameter measurement, and fundus evaluation, and X-ray of the orbits. There are the 5 investigations in case of suspected retinoblastoma. There are 2 types of classification. One is Rees-Elsworth classification. Rees-Elsworth classification is an old classification. Now it is not used. Now what we use is International Classification of Retinoblastoma, ICRB. This is the most common, nowadays the most common used classification, International Classification of Retinoblastoma. In 1950s, Rees-Elsworth classification system was developed to predict the prognosis of treatment with radiation. In 1990s, clinicians found Rees-Elsworth classification system no longer accurately reflects the prognosis, the newer treatment modalities, and also increased risk of secondary tumors following radiation. So it is outdated. 1950 to 1990, it is considered as an important classification, Rees-Elsworth classification. But 1990, the clinicians found that Rees-Elsworth classification no longer accurately reflects the prognosis. It cannot diagnose the prognosis. With the newer treatment modalities, it is considered as outdated. Rees-Elsworth classification is considered as outdated. Now what we use is International Classification of Retinoblastoma, ICRB. It was developed, ICRB was developed to better predict the need for enucleation and mainly to predict the enucleation and external beam radiation treatment. That is the 2 main indications, to predict the need for enucleation and external beam radiation treatment. That is the main use of ICRB. Rees-Elsworth classification, it is no longer used. No need to remember also. If you need remember ICRB classification, that is sufficient. Rees-Elsworth classification, solitary tumor less than 4 disc diameters in size and behind at or behind the equator. Multiple tumors, none over 4 disc diameters in size. All are at or behind the equator. That is group 1, very favorable prognosis. Group 2 is favorable prognosis. Solitary tumor, 4 disc diameters to 10 disc diameters in size, that are behind the equator. Or multiple tumors, 4 to 10 disc diameters in size, behind the equator. Group C is doubtful prognosis. Any tumor anterior to the equator, or solitary tumor larger than diameter, 10 disc diameters, and behind the equator. Group 4 is unfavorable prognosis with multiple tumors, some larger than 10 disc diameters in size. Any lesion extending anterior to the Varadkar retina, that is also unfavorable. Very unfavorable prognosis. Massive tumor over half of the retina or vitreous staging. This has very unfavorable prognosis. Massive tumor involving more than half of the retina or the vitreous staging, it has very unfavorable prognosis. This is Rees-Elsworth classification. This is outdated now. It is no longer considered. But remember Rees-Elsworth classification, that is. This is the latest classification, International Classification of Retinoblastoma. You have to remember this. Group A, very low risk. Small intraretinal tumors less than 3 mm in size, away from the foveola, and that has the very low risk. The prognosis is very good. Very low risk, excellent prognosis. Group B, low risk. Tumor is more than 3 mm in diameter, but within 3 mm from the center of the fovea or within 1.5 mm from the optic disc margin. That is called Group B. Group A is less than 3 mm, but away from the 3 mm from the center of the fovea or 1.5 mm away from the disc. That is Group A. Group B, low risk. The tumor is more than 3 mm, but it is within 3 mm from the center of the fovea or within 1.5 diamonds on the center of the optic disc. That is group B. Group C is moderate risk tumor with focal, subretinal, or vitreous shading within 3 mm from the tumor. Moderate risk group C. The tumor is focal, subretinal, or vitreous shading within 3 mm from the tumor. Group D is high risk tumor with a diffuse subretinal or vitreous shading more than 3 mm from the tumor. If the tumor is away from the 3 mm distance of 3 mm away from the tumor, it is considered as high risk tumor. Group B is very high risk extensive retinoblastoma occupying more than 50% of the globe, with or without neovascular glaucoma or hemorrhage of the tumor, extension of the tumor to the optic nerve. These are all poor prognosis. There is intravitreal hemorrhage. If the tumor is extending to the optic nerve head, the tumor is causing neovascular glaucoma or secondary glaucoma, any secondary glaucoma like ankylosing glaucoma or open angle glaucoma, or if the tumor is causing hypopyon, pseudohypopyon, or hypema, they are all poor prognostic factors. Group A, very high risk because tumor is occupying more than 50% of the globe. It is causing hemorrhage. It is causing intra-optic nerve extension to the optic nerve, sometimes beyond the optic nerve intracranial extension also. It can cause hypopyon or hemorrhage. This is group A, very high risk. Group B has very high risk. This is the classification, international classification of retinoblastoma. Group A means very low risk. The tumor is small, less than 3 mm in size, but situated at a distance of more than 3 mm from the foveola, more than 1.5 mm from the disc. That is group A. Group B, the tumor is more than 3 mm, but situated within 3 mm from the center of the fovea. So fovea is a very important area for the vision. It is the point at all the rays, light rays converge and reach the optic nerve. From the optic nerve, which reaches the visual contact. So the tumor is large, more than 3 mm. It is group B, and it is situated within 3 mm from the center of the fovea. It has a low risk. Moderate risk means tumor is focal, subretinal, or vitreous seeding. There is seeding of the vitreous. Tumor is causing seeding. That means it is started spreading, but the seeding is within 3 mm from the tumor. That is moderate risk. High risk means there is diffuse seeding of the focal seeding is moderate risk. Diffuse seeding of the into the vitreous or subretinal space is high risk. Focal seeding has moderate risk. Diffuse seeding has high risk. Very high risk means the tumor is more than 50% of the globe. It has very high risk. This is the classification, international classification of retinoblastoma. Very low risk, moderate risk. Moderate risk means focal seeding. High risk means diffuse seeding. Very high risk means tumor is occupying more than 50% of the globe. Very low risk means tumor less than 3 mm in size. Low risk means tumor is more than 3 mm in size. If you remember like this, very low risk means tumor is less than 3 mm in size. Low risk means tumor is more than 3 mm in size. Moderate risk means focal seeding. High risk means diffuse seeding. Very high risk means tumor is occupying more than 50% of the globe. That is simple, very simple. Okay. The tumor is less than 3 mm in size. It is very low risk. If the tumor is more than 3 mm in size, it is low risk. There is focal seeding of the tumor. It is moderate risk. If there is diffuse seeding of the tumor, it is high risk. If the tumor is occupying more than 50% of the blood, it is very high risk. Very simple. Okay. You can remember like that. This is the international classification of retinoblastoma. Differential diagnosis: congenital cataract, persistent hyperplastic permeability, Troxopara endophthalmitis, or any endophthalmitis, ROP, retinopathy of prematurity. These are all the differential diagnosis. But most important is congenital cataract. 10% of all visual loss in children worldwide. Congenital cataract is the cause for 10% of the vision loss in children. Prevalence is 1 to 6 cases per 10,000 live births. Cataract results from congenital cataract, the most common cause is rubella syndrome. Persistent hyperplastic primary vitreous. This is also one of the differential diagnoses. This is a rare congenital developmental anomaly, poorly anterior, poorly posterior, or a combination of both. Norreus disease. This is also an important differential diagnosis. It is a genetic disorder inherited as X-linked recessive. Features include shrinkage of the globe, wasting of the iris, that is, loss of thickness of the iris. 50% have developmental and mental delay or mental retardation, psychotic features, behavior abnormal, that is Norreus disease. Post disease, this is also one of the differential diagnosis. Very rare congenital non-hereditary eye disorder, unilateral. Most commonly occurs between 6 to 8 years of age, range between 5 months to 71 years. Blood leaks from abnormal vessels in the back of the eye, leading to cholesterol deposits and damaging the retina. It can lead to retinal detachment, glaucoma, atrophy, optic nerve atrophy, cataract, secondary to post. This is also important diagnosis. ROP, retinopathy of prematurity, oxygen toxicity and related to hypoxia. Disorganized growth of retinal blood vessels, scarring and retinal detachment, that is ROP. We have the various differential diagnoses: toxopariasis, uveitis, endophthalmitis, retinal dysplasia, retinoma. These are all the differential diagnoses for retinoblastia. Congenital cataract, persistent hyperplastic primary distress, Norreus disease, Coats disease, retinopathy of prematurity, toxopariasis. If you remember the names, it is sufficient for you. Differential diagnosis of leukoporia or white tissue in the pupillary area. You have to write all these findings. Or differential diagnosis for retinoblastia. Toxopariasis, uveitis, endophthalmitis, retinal dysplasia, and retinoma. These are the various pictures showing various differential diagnosis. This is persistent total vascular syndrome, extending from orthosis to the posterior subscleral. This is retinopathy of prematurity due to oxygen toxicity, where you can see the blood vessels in the peripheral retina with scarring, fibrovascular tractional branch. This is the toxopara granuloma, posterior post-toxopara granuloma. This is the post disease. You can see a yellowish white lesion in the retina. That is called post disease. Vitreodental dysplasia. This is retinoma. This is astrocytoma. This is astrocytoma. This is retinoma. Vitreoretinal dysplasia. This is the post disease. This is toxopara granuloma. This is the retinopathy of prematurity. This is persistent fatal vascular syndrome. Here are all the various differential diagnoses for retinoblastia. Rajesh? Just wait 2 minutes.
Okay, I will come back in 1 minute.
Rajesh? TGD ఇంకోటి ఉంది అది పెట్టుకో. రన్ చేయి. Goals of treatment is to save the life, preserve the vision, and salvage the eye, to avoid nucleation, minimize any complications or side effects of therapy. These are the goals of treatment: to save the life of the child and preserve any vision. These are the two main goals of the treatment. Conservative tumor destructive therapy to salvage the eyeball. It is indicated when tumor is diagnosed in stages A to D of ICRP, International Classification of Retinoblastoma. That is the indication for stages A to D. It is the indication is conservative therapy. Present treatment is multimodality treatment, not single treatment. Multimodality treatment. Multimodality means along with chemotherapy, you can do cryotherapy, external beam radiotherapy, photocoagulation. All these treatments you can use. That is multimodal treatment. Standard dose is carboplatin, vincristine, etoposide regimen recommended for groups A and B and C patients. Consists of 3 weekly 6 cycles. Every 3 weeks you should give carboplastin, vincristine, and etoposide every 3 weeks for 6 cycles. You should give every 3 weeks for 6 times. Until the six cycles are completed, you should give it carboplatin, vincristine, and etoposide for every 3 weeks. The dose of carboplatin is 18.6 milligrams on day 1. Vincristine is 0.05 milligrams on day 1, and etoposide is 5 milligrams at day 1 and day 2. You should give etoposide on 2 days. Whereas carboplatin and vincristine you should give on single time only. In 3 weeks you should give on 1 day only. Whereas etoposide in 3 weeks you should give 2 times, on day 1 and day 2. And the dosage of etoposide is 5 milligrams. Carboplatin is 18.6 milligrams and vincristine is 0.05 milligrams. High dose CVE, carboplatin, vincristine, EV etoposide regimen is recommended for group D patient. Consists of 3 weekly 6 to 12 cycles. Depending on the lesion, regression of the tumor, you should give extend for 6 to 12 cycles. The standard dose is 3 weekly for 6 cycles, whereas high dose is 3 weekly for 6 to 12 cycles. And dosage is also increased. Carboplatin is 28 milligram on day 1, vincristine is 0.25 milligram on day 1, and etoposide is previously etoposide dose is 5 milligram. Now it has been increased to 12 milligram on day 1 and day 2. This is high dose CVE regimen for group D patient. Whereas standard dose is for group A, B, and group C patient. Group A means very low risk. Group B means low risk. Group C means moderate risk. Group D is high risk. Group E is very high risk. So for group D patients, you should use CVE regimen, carboplatin, vincristine, etoposide, 3 weekly, 6 to 12 cycles of carboplatin, 28 milligrams on day 1, vincristine, 0.25 milligrams on day 1, and etoposide, 12 milligrams on day 1 and day 2. Focal therapy that we should use for the following modalities. Cryotherapy is indicated for small tumors located anterior to the equator. You cannot see the lesions which are usually it is very difficult to see the tumors which are located anterior to the equator. So you should go for cryotherapy for lesions which are located anterior to the equator. Laser photocoagulation used for tumors Small tumors located posterior to the equator. Dermotherapy with diode laser is used for small tumors located posterior to the equator but away from the macula. That is the indication for diode laser treatment. Dermotherapy with diode laser. Small tumors located posterior to the equator but away from the macula. Rate radiotherapy is very effective against localized vitreous disease and for elevated tumors. And laser is ineffective. That is the indication for plaque radiotherapy. Vitreous disease and for elevated tumors when laser is ineffective, then you have to go for plaque radiotherapy. External beam radiotherapy is one of the mainstays of treatment in results of classification. Now it is reserved for diffuse disease in the only remaining eye. External beam radiotherapy is used for diffuse disease. These are the indications for focal therapy. Cryotherapy is used for lesions which are situated anterior to the equator. Laser photocoagulation is for small tumors located posterior to the equator. Diode laser is used for small tumors posterior to the equator and away from the macula. Plaque radiotherapy is for vitreous disease, localized vitreous disease and elevated tumors, and laser is ineffective. Plaque radiotherapy is used. External beam radiotherapy is used for diffuse disease. If there is diffuse disease, then you have to go for external beam radiotherapy. Enucleation is a choice of treatment for group E tumors, very high risk tumors. Tumors involving more than half of the retina or optic nerve is involved. Glaucoma is present and anterior chamber is involved. These are the indications for enucleation. Optic nerve involvement, tumor involving more than half of the retina, glaucoma is present, and the tumor is extending into the anterior chamber. Eyeball should be enucleated along with the maximum length of optic nerve, taking special care not to perforate the eyeball. After enucleation, if the optic nerve shows involvement, post-operative treatment should include external beam radiotherapy with 5,000 rads plus chemotherapy. That is carboplatin, vincristine, and etaposide. Sometimes you should use cyclosporine also. That is the chemotherapy for retinoblastoma. Palliative therapy, combination of chemoreduction with carboplatin, vincristine, and etaposide, surgical debulking of the orbit, orbital exenteration, and external chemotherapy. These three treatments include palliative therapy. Palliative therapy is given in case of retinoblastoma with orbital extension, retinoblastoma with intracranial extension, and retinoblastoma with a distant metastasis. These are the indications for palliative therapy. Retinoblastoma with orbital extension, if it is extending into the orbit, or if it is extending into the brain or intracranial, or if it has a distant metastasis, then you have to go for palliative therapy. Palliative therapy includes chemotherapy, surgical debulking of the orbit, orbital exenteration, and external beam therapy. All these 4 steps combined is called palliative therapy. The indications of palliative therapy is retinoblastoma with orbital extension, retinoblastoma with intracranial extension, retinoblastoma with distant metastasis. These 3 are the orbital extension, intracranial extension, and distant metastasis are the indications for palliative therapy. Follow-up recurrence usually occurs within 3 years. Ophthalmic high-dose CVE resin is used for group D patient. Enucleation is used for group E patient. Palliative therapy is used for orbital extension or intracranial extension or distant metastasis. These are the treatment models. Very simple. low dose regime, high dose regime, enucleation, and palliative therapy. Enucleation is if the tumor involves the optic nerve, then you have to go for enucleation. Palliative therapy, orbital extension, intracranial extension, and distant metastasis. Optic nerve involvement, secondary glaucoma are the indications for enucleation. The tumor involves more than half of the retina. If the optic nerve is involved, if there is secondary glaucoma, it can be angle glaucoma or open-angle glaucoma. Secondary glaucoma are the indications for enucleation. Tumor involving more than half of the retina, optic nerve involvement, secondary glaucoma are the indications for enucleation. Standard dose CVE regime, group A and B and C. Very low risk, and moderate risk. Group C is moderate risk. High dose CVE regime, group D patient, high risk patient. Group A is very high risk patient. This is the treatment. Differential diagnosis: congenital cataract, Norris disease, persistent hyperplastic primary vitreous, sports disease, petrolateral fibroplasia, retinopathy of prematurity, Norris disease, tabsocariasis, endophthalmitis, retinoma, retinal dysplasia, uveitis. These are all the differential diagnosis for retinoblastoma. Investigations: ultrasound, B scan, CT scan for calcification, MRI for involvement of the optic nerve or intracranial extension, or trilateral retinoblastoma, involvement of the pineal gland. This is the clinical features presentation: unilateral leukoporia, this is unilateral leukoporia, this is bilateral leukoporia, this is present as a secondary glaucoma with megalocornea and ophthalmos. This is pseudohypopenia. Tumor cells, necrotic tumor cells will diffuse anteriorly and settle at the bottom of the anterior chamber. This is pseudohypopenia. Sometimes it can present as orbital cellulitis. It is orbital invasion. The tumor breaks at the weak point, that is most commonly at the limbus within the sphere on the cornea, and causes orbital invasion. And all the different types of presentation of retinoblastoma. The most common is leukoporia or whitish reflex in the pupillary area. This is the whitish reflex in the pupillary area. This is the secondary glaucoma. This is pseudohypopenia. This is orbital cellulitis. This is the various types of presentation. Other presentation is squint. 20% of the cases present with squint and nystagmus. Growth patterns: endophytic, exophytic, and diffuse infiltration. These are the types of growth pattern. Endophytic means if tumor goes into the vitreous cavity, it is endophytic. The tumor goes between the retina and separates the retina from the underlying choroid, it is called exophytic. Diffuse infiltration means it causes thickening, localized thickening of the retina, it is called diffuse infiltration. Sometimes it can be both endophytic and exophytic. This is the cross section of the eyeball showing both endophytic and exophytic. This is endophytic. This is exophytic, separating the retina from the underlying choroid. This is the retina, this is the choroid. This is exophytic. It goes into the vitreous cavity, here it is endophytic. This is combined endophytic and exophytic. They are the growth pattern. Histopathology: undifferentiated, flexural intestinal rotatis, comorbidities or fluorettes. These are the three types of histopathology. Okay. Completed. With this retinoblastoma is completed. Otherwise, no doubts ఉన్నాయా స్టూడెంట్స్? ఏమండి ఉన్నారా? హలో
సార్,
అర్థమైందా? డౌట్స్ ఉన్నాయా?
Yes, sir.
Okay, థ్యాంక్ యూ, బాయ్.